Hey guys, this is Nate Stone from Film Illiterates, wishing you all a happy 2016. Man, 2015, that just flew by, didn't it? But it gave us some great films to look at, like it gave us some action movies, superhero movies, animated films, and even some interesting indie films as well. I mean, there's a whole collection of stuff for us to see. And actually, this is my favorite time of the year, surprisingly. I always like looking back on the year and seeing what films stood out for me. I mean, it's my favorite part of just any year experience at all. So yeah, this was actually something Joe Campbell and I started last year with the 2014 Top Worst and Best. He's unfortunately not here to do it with me. He's actually over in Jersey right now, celebrating the holidays with his wife and his kid. But he should be back next week and he'll do his own top 10 list with you guys. So in the meantime, I'm here standing in his place and I'm going to be capping down the top 10 best films of 2015. So, just to get started, let's get started with number 10. So number 10 on my list was, surprisingly, Anomalisa. I'm going to be honest, this was a weird film. The fact that it's not only done with just puppets, but also the subject matter as well. But to be honest, I like Charlie Kaufman films, so if you're a big Charlie Kaufman fan as well, you'll go into this and enjoy every moment of it. But surprisingly, I was actually engrossed with the actual voice acting. I mean, David Thewlis as well as Jennifer Jason Leigh did an amazing job with just creating these characters through their voices. And for a film actually dealing with something like, midlife crisis and depression and what it means to be human again, this did a fairly good job without ever showing one human being in it. And there is a running joke in it with Tom Noonan in it. I don't want to give it away because that's a big spoiler, but let me just say, if you're into Charlie Kaufman films, you'll get it, and it's actually quite enjoyable. Again, a weird movie. It's quaint, but it has a lot of tenderness to it, so I'd say check it out. So number 9 on my list was AntMan. So I had my doubts about this movie after Edgar Wright had left the project. I thought, geez, how's Marvel gonna recover from this one? And boy, do I love being proven wrong. This movie was fun, it was entertaining, some great writing, and even some jokes I bet from Edgar Wright's original script still made it into the picture, and you can tell which ones are his. But even just Michael Douglas and Paul Rudd, they were a fantastic duo together. A lot of action and some great jokes were thrown at you towards the very end. I mean, I was laughing throughout the entire climax. It was that fun. And it goes to show you that, when you get a good team behind a project and they pull up their bootstraps and get to the grinding stone, they can actually produce a really good product. So kudos to this film, made it on my top 10 list. So number 8 on my list was Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl. This movie spoke to me in a way because I actually couldn't relate to the main protagonist. I was growing up in high school and I would make films in my spare time, but also I like the story as well. These two characters who are forced together by circumstance, and then this wonderful friendship blossoms from it. It deals a lot with getting over these struggles, these life-changing hurdles, and how that really transforms you, how it really means to give yourself to another person. And to be honest, I love the way this film was shot. I mean, there's a quirkiness to it, but also stylistically, it feels real. It feels like this is an honest movie, and it wanted to actually not only give you something entertaining to watch, but it gives you something to really think about. And to be honest, it was one of the better films of this year. Alrighty, so now on to the next one. Next one on my list was Room. I don't know if I can call this a enclosed space movie because halfway through they do break out, and the rest of the movie is just them in the real world again. But it still maintains the essence of you still feel trapped. You still feel like you're not part of the world. And that's actually important for this story. Brie Larson does a good job with capturing a woman who's trapped in this situation, and the rest of the ensemble does its part. But to be honest, the one who stole the show was the kid. Jacob Tremblay. I've never seen him do anything before, but my God, did he steal the show. I loved his character. I love his portrayal of a kid who has never seen the world but curious and willing to do anything for his mom. And it actually was the heart of the movie. The way it was shot, the way it was directed, the way it was written, it was all told from the kid's perspective, which I thought was very important, especially for a dark subject matter as it was. It was essential. So, one of the more tender movies I saw this year, one of the actually most awe-inspiring movies I saw this year as well. So number 6 on my list was Inside Out. I mean, Pixar's movies are going to make it on my list no matter what, but this one especially. I love Pete Docter's writing. I love his ideas as well. He creates such good characters, such good premises, and they're always fun, they're very insightful, and very touching, very human as well. I thought it was very good. I thought it was very entertaining. I loved it from beginning to end. And yeah, made it to my top 10 list. Alright, so number 5 on my list was Mockingjay Part 2. Let me just say, this was a perfect wrap-up to the movie series. I mean, it's always kind of nerve-wracking when they have to split the last movie into 2 parts, but Francis Lawrence did a great job with this. I mean, I had my concerns of I didn't know how they were going to shoot the ending of this, because the way the book portrays it, it's written in a certain way, and there has to be a certain emotion that it captures, and they did an excellent job with this. To be honest, it's one of the better book series out there that got adapted to the movie, and I thought Jennifer Lawrence, Josh Hutcherson, and the rest of the ensemble did a fantastic job. And yeah, one of the more entertaining films of this year. So, number 4 on my list was The Revenant. Let me say, this is a brutal movie to watch. Don't go in thinking it's going to be an easy ride. It is not. Believe me, the way this movie was shot, directed, acted, you feel cold all the way through in this picture. I mean, you're watching Leo as he's getting mauled by bears, beaten up by nature, and basically it's just intense. Major props to Leonardo DiCaprio for this. He really pulled some teeth for this. And, you know, his performance was great. I thought, actually, it was one of the better performances I've seen all year. But even the movie, we've always been wanting to see what an actual survival movie looks like. And this one pushed it all the way. So yeah, that film is in my number 4. So number 3 on my list is a very interesting film. It's one I don't think people saw this year, but let me tell you, it is a real gem from this past year. Khalil Gibran's The Prophet. This was a passion project headed up by Salma Hayek and her husband, and I think the best way to describe it is, it's a messianic tale told in the style of Fantasia. I mean, the main narrative isn't anything too impressive. It kind of gets a little preachy at times, a little slow, but really the segments about the prose was what blew my mind. I mean, they got animators like Tom Moore, Roger Alders, and even all these different people from all over the world to direct these little segments, and it is some of the most beautiful imagery I have ever seen in the past decade. I mean, you have everything from watercolors to stencils to actual hand-drawn animation, and it is almost kind of like the Fantasia movie that we deserved back in 2000. And the way these segments are done in relation to the prose is beautiful. Each one brings its own interpretation. And for me, it was a gem to watch. I mean, this is one movie I highly recommend for anyone. I mean, once it goes to Redbox, I really recommend you check it out. And it's one of my favorite films of the past year. So, number 2. Mad Max Fury Road. I mean, I don't know what I can say about this film that no one else has said. I mean, it is just a fun movie to watch. I mean, once the film gets started and you're thrown along for the ride, it throws everything at you. It's adrenaline pumping, it's action, butt kicking. I mean, you got guys who are flying off of cars, flinging themselves at cars, explosions, sandstorms, grandma biker gang. I mean, come on, that is like awesome. And believe me, George Miller, I don't know what goes through that guy's mind, but the visuals he was able to pull off on this were just fantastic. And it's because of George Miller and his legacy with the Mad Max series that I think this really just works. And I love the universe, I love the way it was shot, I love the way it was directed, the action was just amazing. And yeah, just one of the most entertaining films I have seen all year. So you're probably thinking to yourself, well, okay, if it's not Mad Max, what movie is it? Like, what is the number 1 movie that tops off everything this year? I mean, I've kind of left out quite a few, actually. Well, I'll tell you. It's a film that ever since I saw the trailer for, I had been dying to see. I mean, it's something that speaks to my inner child, takes me back to the day when I really loved making films. And to be honest, when I saw it, it was an emotional experience for me. And I'm not talking about Star Wars. I'm talking about The Little Prince. So you're probably all scratching your heads right now and you're thinking to yourself, why this film? Out of all the films out there, why this one? Well, I'll tell you. I've been a fan of The Little Prince ever since I was a kid, and I was always kind of concerned on how they would be able to make a modern adaptation of this, and this movie did a fantastic job with it, because it's not a direct adaptation of the book. It's almost a retelling of the book. The main narrative with the old guy and the little girl is actually a fine touch, I think, to the story. It's able to bring out themes and address it in a way that I don't think The Little Prince by itself could have done. And in a way, it actually does the book justice. A lot of the themes, a lot of the main story points still come across in the film. And I love the parallel where you're seeing CGI with stop motion animation. I think it was a perfect blend of the two. And I have to give major credit to Mark Osborne for just helming up this project. I thought This is the movie that I've wanted to see for a long time, and it's the one that this book deserved. I mean, I was so blessed to see this movie when it came out this year. The animation was gorgeous. I love the lighting. I love the story. I love the characters. And yeah, that's my number one pick for the year. So yeah, thank you guys for joining me for my top 10 list. There are some honorable mentions I need to put out there just because I haven't been able to include everything. But 71 was a good one. The Good Dinosaur, Star Wars The Force Awakens, and then two that came out last year but I didn't see until this year, Selma and Song of the Sea. Both of those really were good. If I had my way, I would make Song of the Sea the number one choice, but to be fair, it's 2014 and you gotta keep it in 2015, so yeah. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me, and yeah, this has been quite a year and I'm so glad you're able to share this experience with me. Thanks. So like I said, Joe Campbell will be back next week to do his top 10 list, but in the meantime, feel free to subscribe down there and also check out any videos that you see that look interesting. And like I said, feel free to keep following us on Film Illiterates. More content is coming your way for the new year, and we hope you still watch us. Thanks.